these are people that are putting people on the moon. I'm going to meet my people. And I went through that whole thing and I still did not meet anybody asking these same questions. And it wasn't until 2019 till I learned who you were, who I learned who that you existed in 2019. And then thank you to Ben Marcus who introduced us. We met in 2020 and almost 40 years it took from me having Merlin to meeting you, that for the first time in my life, I met a real life human being that thought like me and was asking the type of questions that I was asking, but was way more advanced. So today is like the manifestation of my imagination and my wildest dreams. So thank you so much for being here. And I just finished reading Virtually Human, which is blowing my mind on so many levels. So let's take the listeners through what is Virtually Human about and what inspired you to write it.
Danielle, I'm going to answer all those questions, but before I do, I first have to be like so open and transparent and say I am so grateful and I feel so full of love that you shared with me everything that you just shared with me. I've always admired your courage. I would say my admiration for you has gone like through the ceiling, through the roof. Um, the type of courage and fortitude that it takes to have lived your life and become you is like so rare in the world. You are an inspiration to everybody who hears this podcast will be inspired. So thank you so much for sharing it openly. You are, I feel I am totally of your tribe, of your mind. So your feelings are like 1,000,000% reciprocated. And I'm just taking a moment here to soak in the euphoria of finding, a person that I feel like absolutely one with. So thank you for being you and for opening up all of that.
I'm wishing that I didn't put makeup on.
Well, I'm just,
Wow.
I can't like say or even think anything else right now other than just huge gratitude that the world brought us together. And, Ben Marcus, who you mentioned, to me, my meeting him is a great example of like my main philosophy in life. And this will get to Virtually Human, which is just kind of, I believe, just like the ancient Chinese traditional medicine specialists, they detected that there were meridians in the body that moved energy up and down the body and through the body. And acupuncture, for example, taps into those meridians. So I also believe that there are meridians to humanity and society. And a lot of this was also identified speaking, from coming from a religious perspective and finding Jesus by Teilhard du Chardin, who was a Jesuit, amazing individual, just extraordinary courage. He was a um, he was a um, stretcher bearer in World War I because he was a conscientious objector to violence, but he was drafted into World War I, and so conscientious objectors were made to be stretcher bearers, which when you're climbing out of a trench to gather people before, and not get shot at by the people from the other trench. Not too many of those stretcher bearers really survived, but miraculously he did. And he went on to realize that what everybody was talking about when they were talking about Jesus, okay, everybody was really talking about merging everybody and the universe into oneness, okay, and that evolution was just another way of saying Christianity. Of course, he eventually became a Jesuit. Um, and he also was on the team that discovered the Peking man. He was an anthropologist. Um, but the point of it all is to say that he had the courage to stand up and say that, Jesus isn't this kind of literary biblical figure. Jesus is the oneness of all of us, and we will all merge into Jesus through technology and through unifying our minds into what he called the noosphere, which is kind of the unification of all humanity. So that wraps back to this thing about meridians. What I try to do each day is I try to feel like, where are the energy patterns of the world taking me?